Welcome to Coins News Daily. Today we're talking about the most valuable rare Lincoln 1-cent wheat pennies in the United States of America that collectors are paying unbelievable prices for. Some of these tiny coins look completely ordinary, but they can actually be worth thousands or even millions of dollars. If you love rare coins and treasure hunting, this channel is for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Coins News Daily, and tell me in the comments, have you ever found a rare coin in your pocket change? Thanks with love for watching. Red Heart. Coin 1. From the very first day a person begins collecting coins, there is always one moment that changes everything. That moment happens when a simple coin, something that looks ordinary and forgotten, suddenly reveals a hidden story and unexpected value. Many collectors experience this moment while searching through old jars, pocket change, or inherited collections. Today we are going to explore one such coin that has fascinated collectors for decades. A coin that many people have seen but very few truly understand. The United States of America Lincoln Wheat Penny with the 1954 D mint mark. If you are someone who loves coins, or even if you are just curious about rare money hiding in plain sight, this story is going to be very exciting for you. Because the coin we are discussing today might look small, simple, and common, but under the right condition and with the right details, it can become a collector's treasure. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series is one of the most beloved coin series in American history. These coins were produced from 1909 until 1958. On the front side of the coin you see the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected presidents in American history. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and it became the first United States coin to feature a real historical person. On the reverse side of the coin, two elegant wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. This is why collectors call these coins wheat pennies. For decades these pennies circulated through the hands of millions of Americans, paying for candy, newspapers, and everyday purchases, but hidden among the millions of coins produced each year, some coins developed special characteristics. Sometimes a small minting error occurred. Sometimes a coin survived in almost perfect condition. And sometimes collectors discovered varieties that were far rarer than anyone expected. The 1954 D Lincoln Wheat Penny was produced at the Denver Mint. The small letter D under the year indicates that the coin was struck in Denver, Colorado. During 1954, the Denver Mint produced more than 250 million pennies. That sounds like a massive number, and it is. Because of that, many people assume this coin cannot be rare. However, experienced collectors know that rarity is not always about how many coins were originally produced. True rarity often depends on condition, preservation, and unusual minting characteristics. Most 1954 D pennies spent years in circulation. They were used daily and became worn down over time. Their surfaces lost detail, the wheat lines faded, and Lincoln's portrait became smooth. Because of this heavy circulation, finding a well-preserved example today is much more difficult than people think. When collectors search for this coin, they look carefully at the details. The sharpness of Lincoln's hair. The clear lines in the wheat stalks on the back. The strength of the lettering. A coin that still shows strong detail after 70 years is already interesting, but the story becomes even more exciting when we talk about minting errors and special varieties. One of the most talked about possibilities with this coin is the repunched mint mark variety. In the past, mint marks were added to coin dies by hand. This means a worker physically punched the letter into the metal die that would strike the coins. Sometimes the punch was not perfectly aligned the first time. When the worker punched the mint mark again, a small shadow or doubling effect could appear. Collectors call this a repunched mint mark. On a 1954 D penny, this can appear as a slight extra line or doubling around the letter D. When seen clearly under magnification, this small detail can transform an ordinary coin into a fascinating collectible. Another variety collectors search for is die cracks or die chips. Over time, the metal dies used to strike coins can begin to crack or break slightly due to pressure. When this happens, the coins produced may show raised lines or small bumps where the damaged die transferred that shape onto the coin. These imperfections might sound like flaws, but to collectors they are pieces of history. Each error tells a story about how the coin was made and the conditions inside the mint at that time. Then there is the most important factor of all in coin collecting. Condition. A coin that has never been used in circulation can look almost identical to the day it left the mint. Collectors call these coins uncirculated. The surfaces remain bright and the fine details stay sharp. When a 1954 wheat penny survives in this kind of condition, collectors become very interested. Professional grading services examine coins carefully and assign them grades based on preservation. Coins graded in the highest mint state levels can be extremely desirable. Imagine a coin that has survived for more than 70 years with nearly perfect detail, clean surfaces, and strong luster. That kind of survival is rare. Most coins simply did not receive that level of protection. Many collectors dream of finding such a coin in an old coin jar, a family collection, or even in a forgotten roll of pennies from the bank. It has happened before, and that possibility keeps collectors searching. Another feature that collectors sometimes discover is strong strike quality. Not every coin leaves the mint with the same sharpness. Some coins were struck with slightly weaker pressure, which means the details appear softer. But a strongly struck coin displays crisp lines in Lincoln's portrait and clear wheat grains on the reverse. A sharply struck 1954 wheat penny with beautiful color and no major marks can become a centerpiece in a collection. Color also matters a lot in copper coins like wheat pennies. Fresh copper has a bright reddish color. Over time, exposure to air causes the metal to darken into brown tones. Collectors classify these coins into three main color categories. Red coins still show most of their original copper color. Red-brown coins show a mixture of red and brown. Brown coins have fully darkened over time. Because original red color is difficult to preserve for many decades, red examples of older wheat pennies are highly prized. Imagine discovering a 1954 wheat penny that still glows with its original reddish shine. That kind of coin instantly attracts attention from collectors and grading experts. Some collectors spend years building complete Lincoln wheat penny collections. For them, each date and mint mark represents a piece of American history. The 1954 penny is one of those pieces that helps complete the story of the final years of the wheat penny era. These coins were produced only 4 years before the design changed in 1959 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 150th birthday. After that year, the wheat ears were replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. So every wheat penny from the 1950s represents the closing chapter of a classic American coin series. Now let us talk about the value that makes collectors pay close attention to this coin. A typical circulated 1954 Lincoln wheat penny usually sells for only a small collector value. But when the coin is preserved in uncirculated condition with strong details, its value increases significantly. Coins that receive high mint state grades from professional grading companies have achieved impressive results in auctions. Collectors competing to obtain the finest examples often drive prices much higher than expected. A well-preserved uncirculated 1954 Lincoln wheat penny has sold in the collector market for around $50 to several $100 depending on grade and color. However, the finest graded examples with brilliant original red surfaces have reached auction prices of around $1,000 or more when collector demand is strong, and if a rare repunched mint mark variety appears in outstanding condition, the value can climb even higher among specialized Lincoln cent collectors. That is why coin collectors always say something very important. Never underestimate a penny, because sometimes a single small coin sitting quietly in a jar or drawer may carry a story, history, and collector value far greater than anyone expects. So the next time you see an old wheat penny, especially one dated 1954 with a small D mint mark, take a closer look. Examine the details. Look for unusual mint marks, strong strikes, and beautiful color. You might just discover a coin that collectors would love to own, and that is the fascinating world of coin collecting, where even the smallest piece of copper can hold a surprising treasure. Coin 2. We are going to explore a small coin with a story so fascinating that collectors around the world still search for it with excitement. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper in your hand that could be worth far more than its face value. A simple 1-cent coin that many people might overlook could actually be a treasure hiding in plain sight. Coin collectors call this the thrill of the hunt, and the coin we are talking about today is one of the most talked about pieces in American coin history. It is the 1955 mint mark Lincoln wheat penny. before we dive into the rare details, take a moment to picture the United States in the mid-1950s. It was a time of change, innovation, and growing prosperity. Cars were getting bigger, television was entering homes, and everyday items like coins passed through millions of hands every single day. Most people spent them without a second thought. But among those ordinary coins, a few special ones were quietly entering circulation that would later become legendary among collectors. The Lincoln Wheat Penny itself is already an important part of American coinage history. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. This design was groundbreaking because it was the first regular United States coin to feature the portrait of a real historical person. The front of the coin shows the calm and thoughtful profile of President Abraham Lincoln. On the back are two simple wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. This elegant design is why collectors call it the Wheat Penny. By 1955, the Wheat Penny design had already been in circulation for decades. Millions were minted every year at different mint facilities. The letter beneath the date tells collectors where the coin was produced. Coins with a D mint mark were struck at the Denver Mint, one of the major coin-producing facilities in the United States. Now here is where things start getting interesting. Most 1955 D mint mark wheat pennies are common. Millions were produced and many still exist today. But within that huge number, there are certain examples that stand out because of their condition, their striking quality, and sometimes subtle minting imperfections that make them far more valuable than ordinary coins. Collectors are always searching for coins that are not just old but special. And the 1955 D Wheat Penny offers several characteristics that make it fascinating to examine. One important factor is strike quality. During the minting process, coins are struck by powerful machines that press the design into blank metal discs. Sometimes the strike is exceptionally strong, creating sharp details in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat. The wheat stalks on the reverse can appear crisp and deeply defined. Coins with these strong strikes are highly desirable because they show the design exactly as the engraver intended. Another factor is preservation. Many pennies from the 1950s circulated for years and became worn down through everyday use. But occasionally a coin was saved early, perhaps stored in a jar, a drawer, or a collection. These coins can survive in stunning condition with bright original luster still shining across the surface. When collectors find a 1955 D Wheat Penny in such condition, it immediately becomes more valuable. Color also plays a major role in determining value. Copper coins change color over time as they react with the environment. A freshly minted copper penny has a bright red tone. Over the decades it gradually turns reddish-brown and eventually deep brown. Collectors classify these colors carefully. A coin that still shows its original red color after many decades is especially prized. Imagine discovering a 1955 D Wheat Penny that still glows with that warm red shine as if it just left the mint. That kind of preservation is extremely rare, and collectors are willing to pay much higher prices for such pieces. But the story becomes even more exciting when we talk about minting variations and unusual features. Sometimes during production small imperfections appear in the dies that stamp the coins. These dies endure tremendous pressure and can develop tiny cracks, chips, or other marks over time. When this happens, those imperfections transfer onto the coins themselves. Collectors love identifying these die varieties. They study the coin under magnification looking for unusual lines, raised marks, or slightly shifted lettering. A small die crack running across the design or a subtle die chip near a letter can turn an ordinary penny into a recognized collectible variety. The 1955 D Wheat Penny has several minor varieties known among specialists. These small differences make the search even more exciting because collectors never know when they might discover a unique example hiding in a group of old pennies. There is also the thrill of condition rarity. Even though millions were minted, only a very small number survived in pristine condition. Coins that remain untouched by circulation with smooth surfaces, bright luster, and sharp edges are graded at the highest levels by professional grading services. These high-grade coins are the ones that create excitement in auctions. Collectors compete fiercely to own the best-known examples because they represent the finest survivors from that year. Think about the journey of such a coin. It may have been struck at the Denver Mint more than 70 years ago. Perhaps it was placed in a bankroll, saved by someone who appreciated coins, and carefully preserved for decades. Eventually it might appear at a major auction where collectors from around the world place their bids. That moment when the auction hammer falls is when the true market value of the coin is revealed. Another fascinating aspect is the historical connection. Every wheat penny links us to everyday life in mid-20th century America. These coins may have been used to buy candy, newspapers, or a cup of coffee. They traveled through countless pockets and cash registers, silently witnessing everyday moments of history. For collectors, holding such a coin is like holding a small piece of time. It represents craftsmanship, history, and the excitement of discovery all in one tiny copper disc. If you are a coin hunter or someone who enjoys searching through old change, the 1955 wheat penny is definitely a coin worth examining closely. Look at the mint mark beneath the date. Study the wheat stalks on the reverse. Check the color and shine of the copper. And if possible, examine the details with a magnifying glass to spot any interesting die marks or varieties. Many valuable coins have been discovered in ordinary places like coin jars, inherited collections, or rolls of pennies from banks. That is why collectors always say never ignore the humble penny, because sometimes that tiny coin can hold surprising value. Now let us talk about the real market value of this fascinating coin. A typical circulated 1955 Lincoln wheat penny is usually worth between a few cents and about $1 depending on condition. A well-preserved uncirculated example can reach prices between $10 and about $40 in the collector market. Coins with exceptional mint state preservation and strong red color have sold at auction for several $100s. The finest known high-grade examples have reached auction prices of more than $1,000 when collectors compete for top-quality pieces. So the next time you see an old wheat penny, especially one from 1955 with a D mint mark, take a closer look. You might just be holding a small copper coin with a story, a history, and a value far greater than 1 cent. Coin 3. We are going to talk about a coin that almost everyone in the United States has seen at least once in their life. Yet very few people realize that some versions of it can quietly sit in a pocket, a jar, or an old coin collection while being worth far more than 1 cent. This is the famous 1956 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance it looks like just another small copper coin, but for collectors and coin hunters it can hold fascinating history, hidden varieties, and sometimes surprising value. Before we dive deeper, imagine this. Somewhere in an old drawer, a forgotten piggy bank, or a dusty coin jar, a tiny copper coin from the 1950s might still be waiting to be discovered. Many collectors love the thrill of checking every penny they find, because sometimes a common coin can turn into a valuable collectible. The 1956 wheat penny is one of those coins that coin hunters still look for today. The Lincoln wheat penny series itself is one of the most beloved coin designs in American history. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it became the first regular circulating United States coin to feature a real historical person. On the front of the coin you see the calm and recognizable portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head appears the word liberty, while the motto "In God We Trust" arches across the top. On the right side is the date 1956, and just below the date you will see a small letter D. That tiny letter tells collectors something very important about the coin's origin. The D mint mark means the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. During the 1950s, the Denver Mint was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of pennies to keep up with circulation demand across the country. In 1956 alone, the Denver Mint struck more than 1 billion Lincoln cents. Because of that massive number, the 1956 wheat penny is generally considered a common coin in average circulated condition. But coin collecting is never only about how many coins were made. What really makes collectors excited are the small details, unusual errors, exceptional preservation, and rare varieties that can transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. Let us look at the reverse design of this coin. On the back you will see 2 simple wheat stalks curving along the left and right edges of the coin. Between them appears the denomination 1 cent and the words United States of America. At the top is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. These wheat stalks are the reason collectors call these coins wheat pennies. The wheat penny design remained in use for 50 years, from 1909 until 1958. That means the 1956 wheat penny was produced during the final years of the wheat reverse design before it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. For collectors, coins from the final wheat years often attract attention because they represent the closing chapter of a historic coin design. Many collectors build complete sets of wheat pennies, which means they need a 1956 coin to finish their collection. This constant demand keeps interest in the coin alive even decades later. Now let us talk about what makes certain 1956 wheat pennies more valuable than others. The first factor is condition. Coins that circulated for many years usually show wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and coat. The wheat stalks on the reverse also become flattened with time, but sometimes a coin escapes circulation entirely. It might be saved in a bank roll, stored by a collector, or hidden away in an old envelope for decades. When a coin remains in nearly perfect condition, collectors describe it as mint state. In these coins the original red copper shine can still glow as brightly as the day it left the mint. Mint state coins from the 1950s can be surprisingly difficult to find in truly pristine condition. Even small contact marks or tiny scratches can lower the grade significantly. That is why high-grade examples of the 1956 wheat penny can attract serious attention from collectors. Another thing collectors carefully check is the color of the copper. Wheat pennies are typically categorized into three color types. Brown coins have darkened with age. Red-brown coins still show some original mint color mixed with darker tones. But the most desirable are full red coins that still display bright original copper luster. A brilliant red 1956 wheat penny in exceptional condition can be far more valuable than an ordinary worn example. Collectors love coins that look almost untouched by time, but the story becomes even more exciting when we talk about minting errors. Error coins are created when something unusual happens during the minting process. These mistakes are not supposed to happen, but when they do, collectors often treasure them. One error collectors sometimes search for is a repunched mint mark. During the 1950s, mint marks were often punched into the die by hand. If the punch moved slightly or was applied more than once, the mint mark could appear doubled or shifted. A 1956 wheat penny with a clear repunched mint mark can be a fascinating discovery. Under magnification, collectors might notice a second outline of the D slightly offset from the main mint mark. Another possible error is die cracks. Over time the steel dies used to strike coins develop small cracks from the pressure of repeated strikes. These cracks can appear as raised lines on the coin's surface. Some collectors enjoy finding dramatic die cracks because they show the life and stress of the minting equipment. There are also off-center strikes where the coin design is not perfectly centered. In these cases part of the design might be missing while a blank area appears on the opposite side. Depending on how dramatic the misalignment is, these coins can become very collectible. Sometimes coins are struck through small debris such as grease or metal fragments. These strike-through errors can create unusual missing details or strange textures on the coin's surface. Each error tells a unique story about the moment the coin was created. For many coin hunters, the excitement lies in carefully examining every penny they find. A magnifying glass, a bright light, and patience can sometimes reveal details that others overlook. Another reason collectors enjoy the 1956 wheat penny is the connection to American history. When this coin was minted, the United States was in the middle of the 1950s era. It was a time of growing highways, classic cars, early television shows, and the beginnings of the space race. These pennies traveled through grocery stores, gas stations, and movie theaters across the country. They passed through countless hands while quietly carrying the face of Abraham Lincoln and a small piece of American heritage. Many people who collect wheat pennies today started with a simple curiosity. Maybe they found an old coin and change, inherited a jar of pennies from a relative, or discovered a small coin album tucked away in a drawer. Once that curiosity begins, it can turn into a lifelong hobby. The beauty of coin collecting is that treasures can still be hiding in ordinary places. Even though billions of pennies were made, collectors never stop searching because rare varieties and exceptional examples can still appear. and now we come to the part everyone is curious about. What is the real value of a 1956 D Lincoln Wheat Penny today? In heavily circulated condition, a typical example is usually worth around 3 cents to 10 cents. A well-preserved uncirculated coin with strong detail can sell for around $5 to $20 depending on quality. High-grade mint state examples with bright red luster have sold for around $100 to $200, but the finest certified examples known to collectors have reached auction prices of around $1,500. So the next time you see a simple copper penny from 1956 with a small D mint mark, take a closer look. That tiny coin might just hold a fascinating story, a hidden error, or a surprising value waiting to be discovered. Coin 4. We are going to explore one of those coins that has captured the attention of collectors across the United States and around the world. This is the famous 1957 D mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny. Before we dive deeper, imagine this for a moment. You are sorting through a jar of old coins at home. Among the copper pennies, one stands out just a little bit. It looks slightly older, with a warm brown color and the classic wheat ears design on the back. You flip it over and notice the date 1957. Just below the date, there is a small letter D. At first glance it might seem like just another penny. But to collectors, that small detail opens the door to a fascinating world of coin collecting. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series is one of the most beloved coin designs in American history. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, this coin became the first United States circulating coin to feature a real historical person. The front of the coin shows the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His design became instantly recognizable and remained on the penny for decades. On the reverse side of the coin, 2 elegant wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. Because of this beautiful reverse design, these coins became known as wheat pennies or wheat cents. They were produced from 1909 until 1958, making the 1957 issue one of the final years in this historic series. Now let us focus on the 1957 D mint mark wheat penny. The letter D beneath the date tells us that this coin was minted at the Denver Mint. During the 1950s, the Denver Mint was producing enormous numbers of pennies to meet the demand of the growing American economy. In 1957 alone, more than 1 billion Lincoln cents were struck at the Denver facility. At first this might make you think the coin cannot possibly be rare. And in most cases, the regular 1957 D penny is actually quite common in circulated condition. Millions of them were used in everyday transactions for decades. However, coin collecting is not always about how many coins were produced. It is often about the special varieties, minting errors, and preserved high-grade examples that survived over time. One of the most fascinating things about the 1957 D wheat penny is how condition dramatically affects its value. A coin that circulated heavily might show scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details on Lincoln's hair and the wheat ears on the reverse. Such coins are common and usually worth only a small premium above face value. But when collectors discover a 1957 D penny that has remained in brilliant mint state condition, with sharp details and glowing original luster, the story changes completely. Mint state coins are those that never entered circulation. They may have been stored in bank rolls, old collections, or forgotten coin albums for many decades. When a coin survives for more than 60 years with minimal wear, collectors consider it a special survivor of history. High-grade examples with blazing red copper color are especially desirable. The original color of a freshly minted copper penny is a bright reddish orange. Over time, exposure to air and handling slowly changes the surface color to brown. This natural toning process is why collectors categorize copper coins into 3 general color types. Brown coins that have fully toned. Red-brown coins that show a mix of original red and deeper tones. And the most prized category, full red coins that retain most of their original mint color. When a 1957 D wheat penny survives in full red mint state condition, collectors pay very close attention. These coins are graded by professional grading companies that carefully examine the coin under magnification and assign a grade that reflects its preservation and surface quality. but there is another aspect that makes certain 1957 wheat pennies incredibly famous among collectors. And that is minting errors. During the coin production process, enormous presses strike blank metal planchets with engraved dies. These dies transfer the design onto the coin with tremendous pressure. If something goes wrong during this process, unusual varieties and errors can appear. One of the most talked about varieties from 1957 is the double die variety. In a double die coin, the design on the die itself was created with a slight misalignment during manufacturing. This causes visible doubling in certain parts of the design when the coin is struck. Collectors often examine the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date to see if any doubling is present. When doubling is strong enough to be clearly visible without magnification, the coin becomes highly desirable. Although the most famous double die of this year is the Philadelphia version without a mint mark, collectors still carefully inspect 1957 D pennies because small varieties and striking anomalies can still occur. Off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, and other minting quirks sometimes appear and can add collector interest. Another factor that increases the desirability of these coins is their connection to the final years of the wheat penny era. In 1959, the reverse design was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial instead of the wheat ears. Because of this transition, many collectors enjoy completing sets that end with the 1957 and 1958 wheat pennies. For collectors, the thrill is not only in owning the coin but also in the hunt. Searching through old coin rolls, estate collections, antique shops, and even pocket change can occasionally reveal hidden treasures. Many experienced collectors remember the excitement of discovering their first wheat penny. The simple joy of holding a coin that has existed for more than half a century never fades. If you ever come across a 1957 D wheat penny, take a moment to examine it closely. Look at the details in Lincoln's hair. Observe the wheat stalks on the reverse. Notice the mint mark beneath the date. Even if the coin appears ordinary, it still represents a small but meaningful piece of American history. For serious collectors, the next step is often submitting high-quality coins to professional grading services. These experts authenticate the coin, assign a grade, and seal it inside a protective holder. This process helps preserve the coin and provides confidence for buyers and sellers in the marketplace. Over the years, auction records have shown that condition truly determines the value of this coin. While worn examples may trade for only small amounts among collectors, pristine high-grade coins can attract significant attention at major auctions. The highest quality mint state examples, especially those with full red surfaces and exceptional strike quality, are the coins that compete for top positions in registry collections. These collections are built by advanced collectors who seek the finest known examples of each coin in a series, and now we come to the moment that many viewers are waiting for. Let us talk about the real market value. A circulated 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny is commonly valued at around a few cents to about 50 cents depending on condition. A well-preserved uncirculated red example may sell for around $10 to $30 in the collector market. Exceptional high-grade certified coins have reached auction results of several $100s. The finest known examples in superb mint state condition with blazing red color have achieved auction prices reaching around $1,000. Coin 5. We are going to explore a small coin that many people ignore, a coin that once bought a piece of candy or a newspaper, but today it has become one of the most fascinating pieces for coin collectors around the world. Yes, we are talking about the United States Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1958 with no mint mark. At first glance it may look like an ordinary 1-cent coin, something that could still be hiding in an old jar, a piggy bank, or a forgotten drawer. But for collectors and coin enthusiasts, this coin carries history, mystery, and in some cases a surprising amount of value. Imagine holding a coin that was minted more than 6 decades ago. In 1958 the world looked very different. The United States was in the middle of a time of technological progress, the space race was beginning, and everyday items like coins were produced in enormous quantities to keep the economy moving. Yet sometimes, within those millions of coins, small details appear that transform an ordinary penny into a collectible treasure. The Lincoln wheat penny itself has a long and beloved history. The design was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. For the first time in American history, a real person appeared on a circulating coin. The designer Victor David Brenner created a portrait of Lincoln that became one of the most recognizable images in American coinage. On the front of the coin, you see the calm and thoughtful portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. Above his head the word Liberty appears, while the date sits proudly to one side. The phrase "In God We Trust" curves along the top of the coin. This design remained on the penny for decades and became deeply familiar to generations of Americans. The back of the coin is where the famous wheat ears appear. Two simple wheat stalks curve along the left and right edges, symbolizing prosperity and agriculture. In the center you see the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum. Because of these wheat stalks, collectors affectionately call these coins wheat pennies. Now let's move specifically to the year 1958. This was actually the final year the wheat design was used before the United States Mint changed the reverse design in 1959 to feature the Lincoln Memorial. That fact alone already gives the 1958 wheat penny a special place in American coin history. It represents the end of an era. Most 1958 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins from Philadelphia traditionally carry no mint mark, which is why you will often see the 1958 penny with no mint mark under the date. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced, which means that in circulated condition many examples are still easy to find, but this is where things become interesting for collectors. While common circulated pieces may only be worth a small amount, certain examples stand out due to condition, preservation, or rare minting errors. These special pieces are the ones that make collectors search through rolls of pennies and old collections hoping to find a hidden gem. One of the first factors that can make a 1958 wheat penny more valuable is its condition. Coins that have never been circulated are called mint state coins. These coins still retain their original shine, known as mint luster. When light reflects off the surface, it creates a beautiful cartwheel effect that collectors love to see. If a 1958 penny survived decades without scratches, wear, or discoloration, its value can rise dramatically compared to a worn example. Professional grading services evaluate coins carefully under magnification and assign them a grade based on their condition. The higher the grade, the more desirable the coin becomes to collectors. Another fascinating aspect is the color of the copper. Freshly minted copper coins have a bright reddish tone. Over time copper slowly darkens and turns brown. Collectors categorize copper coins into red, red-brown, and brown. A fully red coin that has maintained its original color for more than 60 years can attract strong interest at auctions, but condition alone is not the only reason collectors pay attention to the 1958 penny. The real excitement comes when unusual minting errors appear. These errors are accidental variations that occurred during the minting process. Because they are rare and unpredictable, collectors are always searching for them. One type of error that collectors look for is the doubled die. This happens when the coin design is impressed onto the die more than once in slightly different positions during the manufacturing process. The result is a visible doubling of letters or numbers on the coin. When this occurs on important parts like the date or inscriptions, it becomes extremely desirable. The 1958 double die wheat penny is considered one of the legendary coins among Lincoln cent collectors. Only a very small number of genuine examples are known to exist. The doubling is dramatic and clearly visible on the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Because of its rarity, this coin has become one of the most talked about varieties in the Lincoln penny series. Another feature collectors examine closely is the strike quality. A strong strike means the design details are sharp and fully formed. Look at Lincoln's hair, the lines of his coat, and the fine veins in the wheat ears on the reverse. When these details appear crisp and well defined, the coin becomes far more appealing. There is also the thrill of the hunt that makes this coin exciting. Many collectors still search through old penny rolls hoping to discover an overlooked 1958 wheat penny in exceptional condition or with a rare error. Even today stories occasionally appear of people finding valuable coins in inherited collections or forgotten jars of change. Think about it for a moment. Somewhere out there, a coin that once circulated through grocery stores, movie theaters, and gas stations could now be sitting unnoticed in a small box. That simple penny may have passed through thousands of hands before finally ending up in a collector's album. For coin lovers, this connection to history is part of the magic. Each scratch, each tone of color, each tiny detail tells a story about the journey that coin has taken across decades. The 1958 Wheat Penny without a mint mark also represents the final chapter of the Wheat design series that lasted 50 years. When the Lincoln Memorial design replaced it in 1959, an entire generation of American coinage came to an end. That historical significance adds another layer of importance for collectors building a complete Lincoln cent collection. When collectors search for this coin, they usually examine a few key things very carefully. They check the date to confirm it is 1958. They look under the date to see that there is no mint mark, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia. They inspect the lettering and numbers for signs of doubling or unusual shapes. They also examine the surface for strong luster and minimal marks. Magnifying glasses, coin microscopes, and proper lighting are often used during this process. Sometimes the smallest detail can transform an ordinary coin into something remarkable. It is also important to remember that authentication is crucial. Because rare coins can be extremely valuable, collectors rely on professional grading companies to confirm authenticity and assign an official grade. Once a coin is certified and sealed in a protective holder, it becomes easier to sell and trade within the collector community. Now let us talk about the value that makes collectors so interested in this coin. Most circulated 1958 Wheat pennies with no mint mark are common and usually worth only a few cents to a few dollars depending on condition. Uncirculated examples with bright red color can sell for around $20 to $50 depending on quality. However, the legendary 1958 double-die Wheat penny belongs to a completely different category. Because so few genuine examples exist, collectors are willing to compete fiercely whenever one appears at a major auction. In past auctions, authenticated examples of the 1958 double-die Lincoln Wheat penny have sold for prices reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars. One famous sale recorded a price of more than $300,000, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. So the next time you see an old penny, especially a Wheat penny from the year 1958 with no mint mark, take a moment to look at it carefully. What seems like a simple 1-cent coin might carry history, rarity, and the possibility of surprising value. For collectors, the excitement is not only about money. It is about discovery, history, and the thrill of holding a small piece of the past that has traveled through time. And who knows? The next rare coin discovery might already be sitting quietly in someone's pocket change, waiting for a curious collector to finally notice it.